I think it's fair to assume at this point that Splatoon 3 is probably going to happen. Around the time that Splatoon 1 stopped receiving updates is apparently when they started development of Splatoon 2, and now we're basically at the end of Splatoon 2 receiving updates, so there's a chance that maybe some pre-planning of Splatoon 3 has begun. And today I actually like to take a moment to sort of go over some 5 things that I would like to have changed for Splatoon 3. So without any real further ado, I guess we'll just jump right into it since it's been a while since I've done anything on this channel. It's a given that going into Splatoon 3, the specials will get scrapped. However, what I'd like to see them do is have more than just new specials. I think in general, the cost of specials in both games has been far too low for how varied of an impact the special can have. Sometimes they're just too low. For example, I can play mini Splatling and get 10 missiles 10 times a match. Sure, I can pump them out like crazy, but 10 missiles are what I would consider to be a low impact special, where an H3 or a Kensa Undercover Umbrella can get ink armor 7 to 8 times a match. And ink armor is a high impact special. Specials in general come too fast and for their worth is all over the place. Into Splatoon 3, I'd like to see them make every special pretty expensive. Something you can't get 6 or 7 times a game. Maybe have the average cost go from 180 like it is now to around 350, basically doubling the cost needed for specials. This could allow them to make the specials more impactful, so the increased cost of the special is more justified. This would allow the game to have less of a focus on just outputting specials and instead using the specials correctly and in a smart way. Say you're playing a match and the enemy team is all long-range weapons and you're playing something with short range like a sploosh or an aerospray. Your options are to try and play around the lack of range by flanking and maneuvering around the opponent and hoping that they don't actually just catch you out outright, or just outpainting the other team, making it harder for them to get back in when they have no map control. Outside of that, if your weapon and your team's weapons aren't good for the matchup, you just have to play out a match that is more geared towards one side, and that's not exactly a whole lot of fun. What I'd like to see them do is offer the ability to change your weapon and gear at your spawn. This would allow teams to change their weapons to better suit the certain situations that they're in. You'd be able to plan for certain loadouts in case certain situations come up, and all you'd have to do is go back to your spawn to change them. The cost for changing your loadout would be that your special gauge gets depleted back down to 0. If you couple this with higher costs for specials, it would be quite a decision to make to opt out of using a weapon that you're currently using and have your special gauge go back down to nothing to better suit a situation, or use your special then change. The big reason why I'd like to see this is a lot of shooters have this sort of counterplay where if there's something that doesn't suit the situation you're in, you can go ahead and change it to make something better for you. A lot of shooters like Call of Duty, well, you would just go and pick up a different gun, or you would go and change your loadout. Or other games, you can just straight up switch your loadouts to better suit what's happening. If you're playing a game where there's a sniper and you don't have a sniper, well, someone's going to go pick up a sniper and start challenging the other team's sniper. Where in Splatoon, if there's a matchup that's just not in your favor, that's it. It's just not in your favor, and that's how it's going to be in the whole match. I'd like to see them offer this so you can sort of turn the tides of the battle and have more of an option rather than just going into a match that may or may not be in your favor. Splatoon 1's rank system was pretty good and followed in the vein that a lot of other games do with their competitive modes. The higher you go in ranks, a win gains you less and a loss hurts you more. This is something that I guess was lost on a lot of the community in Splatoon 1. People felt that the ranking system was working against them when in reality the point is to get the player to prove that they can win and try their hardest. Going into Splatoon 2, they decided to overhaul the ranking system, and instead of gaining and losing points, you filled a gauge and provided a checkpoint halfway through. The amount of wins needed to get to the checkpoint in comparison to breaking the gauge, which is basically just depleting it and deranking, was heavily stacked towards those who just played. You are more likely to rank up than you are to derank in Splatoon 2, and that's a pretty big issue. It doesn't reward win streaks and punish losses, it rewards consistent play. As long as you keep playing matches, the likelihood of you ranking up goes up. I like to see them take the ranking system and maybe turn it all into the way that X rank currently functions right now. Everyone starts at 0 rank points and players win and lose and to go up and down in points. The ranks are based on the points you're at. As of the time of making this video, I see the average X rank lobby around 2300 points. So let's say in Splatoon 3, if you're at 2300 points, you're considered X rank. This system would also work a lot like how other current games have it with their competitive modes, where you would gain and lose rank points, and then you would have a rank assigned to you, starting with Bronze and going all the way up to Grandmaster. This is a similar system to what I'm currently describing, where you start at 0 and maybe be considered a C- rank, and then you go up in points, and after you get a certain threshold, you would go up in rank. This is what I would consider to be a good middle ground, and at least X rank sort of has a good system going for it, when it has this, you go up and down in points similar to what Splatoon 1 had, but I feel the whole gauge meter thing that they had from C- to all the way to S+ just doesn't work well, and it's just flawed in so many ways. The amount of wins you needed to rank up and the amount of losses you needed to derank just heavily geared towards just playing, and eventually you'll get there, and that's not how a ranked system should be. At the end of Splatoon 1, quick respawn and stealth jump dominated the high levels of the game. Their effects were great, and it was at a point where the dev team had moved on to developing Splatoon 2, so updates weren't coming through for Splatoon 1, and so they never saw changes. Splatoon 2 brought back both abilities, and changes were made to make them a little bit less effective. However, the changes weren't enough to completely push them out of play. I'm not talking about getting rid of just quick respawn and stealth jump, but all of the abilities. With a clean slate, they can come up with abilities that are able to cover multiple things and in multiple cases. Not too long ago, they got rid of cold-blooded and instead merged it with bomb defense. This kind of shows that they were aware that nobody was using cold-blooded and opted to fuse it with another ability so it would eventually see use. Just redoing all the abilities could benefit in a lot of ways and could allow them to come up with more creative ideas to work certain abilities into one thing. So instead of having something like Ink Saver Main and Ink Saver Sub, they could just have something in the vein of maybe just Ink Saver and have it affect multiple things, but have its value be pretty lowered, so you'd have to stack a bunch of it to see a great use out of it. A big reason why I want to see this change is just overall a lot of abilities just aren't useful, and certain things are just never going to get run, and it doesn't matter how many times they buff certain things. A lot of things like Opening Gambit or Last Ditch Effort probably just aren't going to get run at all, and so certain things like that just probably deserve to be just scrapped and have something new completely to replace them. Okay. I think everyone expected this one. In case you don't know, Splatoon 1 and Splatoon 2 are both considered peer-to-peer, meaning the matches you play aren't on a server, but instead, you're all connected to one another. This can cause a sea of issues, with the most notable one being lag. If someone in your lobby has a poor connection, it can affect the entire lobby's connection. It only takes one slow connection to drag down the entire lobby. While playing on servers would be nice, I'm sure the biggest reason why it's not done is simply because it's not cheap. I see a lot of people saying Nintendo needs to do it to fix the game, but not many people seem to realize just how much time and effort and money goes into making servers for multiplayer games. Typically, games with a low amount of players like fighting games will use peer-to-peer, as there aren't a whole lot of people, and peer-to-peer works best in that sort of situation. But in Splatoon, where matches have 8 people, 10 if you have spectators in a private lobby, that's a fair amount of people for the range of the connection. Not a big issue if everyone in the match is from the same area and has similar internet speeds, but say you have one guy in your match who is on dial-up, it's not going to be fun for anyone involved. Another change people like to see for the game is for its tick rate to go up. Tick rate is basically the time needed for aspects of the game to update. The lower the tick rate, the slower things update, and the faster they are, the faster things update. Splatoon 1 on the Wii U had a tick rate of 25 Hz. Splatoon 2 has a tick rate of 16 Hz. They actually downgraded when going to better hardware. That's sort of an odd choice. For comparison, Overwatch, which is another shooter, is currently at 63 Hz, so it is more than double what of Splatoon 1 had, and quite a bit above what Splatoon 2 has. Now, for a lot of people, the tick rate might not seem like a big deal. However, raising the tick rate would mean certain aspects of the game would work better. So say you've ever played a match where you feel like you got around a corner but still died to someone that was shooting you when you had passed that corner. That could be a result of the tick rate. The game didn't update your position fast enough, and so that person that was still firing at you on their screen, you could have not have rounded that corner. Upping the tick rate could mean that certain things like that won't happen anymore. It'd be nice to see Splatoon 3 have dedicated servers and a higher tick rate, but I'm aware that on this list, and it's number 1 on my list and number 1 on a lot of people's list, it is probably the least likely on this list to happen. I'd also like to take this moment to clarify that Splatoon 2 isn't region locked when it comes to its matchmaking. This is sort of a misunderstanding that still gets spread around to this day, but it is not region locked. It is based on ping. And ping is basically your speed to someone else's connection. Splatoon 1 was not ping-based matchmaking and instead put you with whoever was playing. Well, with Splatoon 2, now they've made it to where your matches are based on ping, and you're playing with people that have a good ping to you. So it's unlikely that you'll get people from other regions, but it's not impossible. Let's say, for example, you're on the east coast of the US, you can still get people from Europe. And if you're on the west coast of the US like I am, you can get people from Japan. It's not possible to get from other countries, it's just not likely. And that's that. Those are my 5 things I'd like to see changed when coming over to Splatoon 3. There are probably some people that might disagree or agree with some of the things that I put on this list, so if you have something that's different, or you may agree with some of my points, feel free to leave a comment below. I'd be interested in seeing anything else that people would like to have changed. Maybe something that I just don't notice, or maybe just something that might not be a big deal to me, but might be a big deal to you. So if you have anything that you'd like to share, please leave a comment below. I'd be interested in reading them all. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So I want to thank everyone for watching, and I will see you all next time.